Good morning, Guardsmen. Today I would like to present you a Minigeddon battle report. Minigeddon is a smaller format of Epic Armageddon. It's limited to 1000 points per side, only 2 objectives, 1 blitz and 1 take and hold, and is played on a smaller board, 90 centimeters by 120 centimeters. Today, Space Wolves will be fighting the Steel Legion Imperial Guard, and with that said, let's jump right into the action. The board we will be playing on represents a devastated refinery world. The Space Marines place their blitz objective in the middle of the edge, while the Imperial Guard places their objective behind the woods. As for take and hold objectives, the Marines place there in the middle of the board, while the Imperial Guard places their neck as close to the blitz as possible. Once objectives are set up, it's time for garrisons. The Space Marines have none. The Imperial Guard have 1 Infantry Company, which they put in the woods to provide cover and a much needed armor save. After garrisons, it's normal deployment, so let's take a look at the Marines. In the left corner of the map, mixed together are Fenrisian Wolves, Land Riders and Bikers. In the right corner is the Grand Company. As for the Imperial Guard, here is the previously mentioned garrison, and next to it behind some ruins are the Sentinels, Manticores and Mechanized Infantry Company. We roll off to see who goes first, and no surprises there, Marines win turn 1. They start their turn by moving the Fenrisian Wolves into the ruined buildings to provide some cover. Next are the Imperial Guard Manticores, which sustain fire. They target the Land Riders and Bikers, scoring 3 hits in total, 2 on the Land Riders, 1 on the bikes. Thanks to the disrupt ability, this means 4 blast markers for the Land Riders, additional 1 for the size of the barrage, and 3 blast markers for the Bikers. Next is the Grand Company, which marches forward, taking up positions in the refinery. The Imperial Guard decide to wait and see how the battle plays out and just put their Infantry Company, which was already on Overwatch, back on Overwatch. Marines decide to move their bikes to prepare for an assault next turn. Careful calculation and measurements are being taken not to trigger the Infantry Company Overwatch. Seeing that all the action is going to be happening on the right flank, I march my Sentinels into the woods, not to intermingle with the Infantry Company, but to provide additional firefight support if an assault would come to life. Marines' final activation are the Land Riders. They marshal, taking down blast markers and moving up forward to a better position, more close to the center of the field. The Guard's last activation is the Mechanized Infantry Company. I thought for a moment what to do. Should I move on the left flank and maybe use up the empty space, or move to the right and support my Infantry Company, and decided for the latter. So you'll see a lot of movement from the Chimeras and the infantry that are going with them. The plan is to move as close to the Infantry Company and Sentinels as possible, but not to intermingle with them, to provide fire support if necessary, but not to get messed up into a possible assault. The double action allows me to fire, and I'm putting as much infantry and chimeras in range as possible to put some blast markers and possibly kill some stuff. I'm shooting at the bikes and actually managed to score a few hits. The bikes have a very high save, but 1 fails and dies. This is the general board state for the end of turn 1. Marines again win initiative on turn 2. They start off by making a march move with their Fenrisian Wolves to threaten my artillery unit. Knowing that there will be no more action on that side, I decide to leave the artillery for now and focus on the right flank. I want to start by sustaining fire on the Sentinels. Try to activate but roll a 1 and fail. When taking the hold action, I decide to remove the blast marker. Marine bikes Marshal, dropping some blast markers and jumping a little bit back to hide from the overwhelming Imperial Guard forces. By jumping back to that position, they actually intermingle with the infantry and rhinos. I decide to take advantage of that move and prepare an assault with my Mechanized Infantry Company. I want to be in range of as little units as possible, moving the chimeras up front to soak any damage since the infantry does not have a natural armor save of its own. I'm counting on the inspiring commissar, the outnumbering numbers, and the fact that my opponent has a lot more blast markers than I do. After finishing the charge move, it's time for a counter-charge move from the Marines. After some testing, they noticed that they can only fit 3 units in the firefight, while my 7 chimeras are ready to fight. Guard fires and scores no hits, the Marines score a single hit. The entire assault resolution, however, is in my favor. The Imperial Guard win by 2 points, so 1 more Marine unit is dropped, and 2 formations are broken and need to retreat. Infantry falls back to the buildings, and bikes fall back to the ruins. Guard consolidates, moving its chimeras a bit back to give the infantry some cover, since any infantry unit touching an armored vehicle is harder to hit. Marines double with the Land Raiders, targeting the victorious Mechanized Infantry Company. They decide to target only the chimeras, treating them as an open. 8 shots, 4 hits. I throw my saving throw and save absolutely nothing. So the Mechanized Infantry is reduced to only 3 transports. It's time to fix bayonets and double up with my infantry company, jumping into the refinery and targeting the Land Riders. After some consideration, I change the target to the broken infantry behind the Land Riders, since they are pretty much vulnerable to any fire at the moment. Not exactly the softest of targets, but from the 7 shots that I place, 1 reaches the target and destroys a single infantry unit. The last move of round 2 are my Manticores. I decide to march and go as far away from the wolves as possible to try and save my launchers for the next turn. In the end phase, the Marine Infantry actually regroups. The Mechanized Infantry also makes its roll and drops most of its blast markers. The Bikers make their roll and also regroup, so all units are active on the start of turn 3. Here is an overview of the battlefield at the end of turn 2. Turn 3, Marines again win the roll-off and decide to assault my Sentinels with the Fenrisian Wolves. They managed to only get 2 units into hand-to-hand combat, so the other 4 will do absolutely nothing since they don't have a firefight value. Wolves tear apart a single Sentinel, while the Sentinel do absolutely nothing to the Wolves, which is enough to have a decent advantage that in the end allows the Wolves to tear apart the entire unit. The Sentinels are absolutely devastated and dead, while the Wolves have suffered no casualties. It's time to fire up my artillery while I still have it. I target the Land Riders and the infantry hiding in the buildings, scoring 3 hits on the riders and 2 hits on the infantry. Unfortunately, the Emperor protects and my fire doesn't do a single damage to any of the 2 units. I just put a lot of blast markers on both of them. Land Riders decide to marshal. First, they will fire at a penalty of -1. Only 2 units are able to fire. After a short discussion of what can actually be in cover and what not, the Land Riders fire. They land 2 hits on the Chimeras, and the Emperor protects this time the Guard, and both Chimeras save. I have a long internal discussion with myself on what to do next. I can either try to assault the Land Riders or try to double up and fire on the bikers. The Land Riders are actually not intermingled but very close to the infantry, so assaulting them would be an issue. I decide to go for the bikers. Since I only have 2 Chimeras left, I will need to double up them on the left side of the refinery, taking a look from the perspective that you are currently seeing, while the infantry doubles up on foot. The Chimeras need to move by the left side because the Land Riders are too close. I also want them to place them as close to the take and hold objective as possible to actually capture it and possibly gain a point by the end of the round. Due to range and blast markers, only 6 infantry stands can shoot. 2 hit. Of the 3 Chimeras laser cannons, none actually hit. The Emperor protects again and Marines save both hits, so only a blast marker is placed. I check to see that my Chimeras are contesting the objective. After being shot at, it's time for the bikes. They marshal, removing blast markers and forming a conga line to keep me away from the take and hold objective on my side of the table. Since I only have 1 unit not activated yet, you guessed right, it's fixed bayonets and an assault. The Infantry Company is assaulting the Land Riders. Since my infantry does not have an armor save of its own, I need to be very careful while placing them, not get any additional hits from the supporting fire from the infantry in the buildings. The Land Riders decide that moving is not necessary and the firefight begins. Of all the shots, I'm actually able to roll 6 hits, which is a great result. What happens next is a total Marine failure to save any of these 6 hits, which means that my infantry actually wipes out in a firefight an entire Land Rider detachment. This is truly a glorious day for the Imperial Guard. Having won without suffering any casualties at all, they consolidate back into the refinery for some much needed armor saves. This battle just went very south very quickly for the Marines. The last remaining Marine unit decides to back up, but I just simply point out that if they do not contest the objective, then the Guard will win on turn 3. Here is an overview of the battlefield for turn 3. As you can see, Imperial Guard forces are gathered in the center while the Marines are encircling it. Marines again win activation, no surprises there, and assault my Manticore launchers. The Wolves simply tear apart the open-topped launchers. They try to put up a fight. and actually managed to score a single hit, which is saved by the Wolves. Next, the Wolves consolidate to take my blitz, so that's one point that I will not be able to take from the Marines. I decide to be greedy and try to do a power grab. If I stretch out enough, I will be able to contest the blitz and the take and hold objective with my chimeras, while also protecting myself from the bikers. There's only one way I can achieve that, and it's by assaulting the Marines directly. Well, not really directly. I want to just grab a single rhino or two rhinos in a firefight and leave out the infantry of the fight to maximize my chances for victory. A lot of precise measuring and placement is in play. We don't normally do that, but this was a very interesting move, so we wanted to make sure that everything is tidy and neat. I roll a bucket load of dice and I are actually able to land 7 hits. Exceptionally good when it comes to guard and the 5+ firefight. For the Marines, the 2 rhinos and the infantry goes down. And it seems that the Emperor protects yet again. Marines land 2 hits on the chimeras and the chimeras save both of them. While the infantry is broken, I use my consolidate move to push just a little bit closer to the blitz and actually am within 15 centimeters to contain it, to hold it. There is only one thing the Marines can do to stop me, and it's an assault by the bikers. They move up in range and decide to get in a firefight with the Imperial Guard. The infantry moves forward, getting as many men into the fight as possible. I decide to move only one chimera up to keep the other 2 contesting the objectives. Marines fire and are able to land 2 hits. Since infantry is closest and it does not have an armor save of its own, 2 infantry units die. I know I moved 3, but I'll put one back in just a moment. Yeah, there you go. Next, it's the Imperial Guard. The guard hits many times, but Wolves save just everything but 2 hits, making it a tie when it comes to casualties. We roll off and it turns out the Imperial Guard won the engagement and thus won the entire game. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this battle report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.